John LeBang Show has been known to make people laugh, sing, think, scream, throw things in rage, and generally lose their minds. Listener discretion is advised. Greetings, Earthlings, and alert the media. This week's second hour of the JOHN LEBANG Show is now underway. Only a week after the shooting, it's been, for the most part, any real information has been swept off the front pages, and we're getting small information like what was on the note. Maybe some calculations were on there. But any real information seems to be not available to the regular people here in the world. We're left wondering what happened out there, how it all transpired. Earlier, before the show, I was watching a video of the interview of the brother of the shooter, the apparent shooter. And it was a very interesting interview. It was the second one he gave. And I took away something from it. This is my opinion, sounds like he's, and especially by his body language, that he knew or knows more than he's letting out. And I'm wondering, being that I'm of the belief that I don't think this guy did it all by himself. You have to start wondering if he had accomplices and either they backed out and that's why you can't, that's why it went the way it did. I mean, we did find out that there were things that can make explosives in his car, and it looks like the plan was supposed to be something greater than what actually turned out. And I mean, it was horrific, the amount of it's just a terrible scene. As we speak, we're trying to get a hold of a former Las Vegas police officer to see if he'll come on the show and talk to us and give us perspective on the law enforcement side of things, how they would have handled things in that 72 minutes from when he started shooting and when they breached his room. I don't know if we're going to be able to get him on before the hour is up, but we do have the call out to him, and we're hoping that takes place because we want to find out, all the information that we can, so we, the public, who are being fed just specific items and nothing of real meat or value, we can piece together things ourselves. Because there's a lot of speculation going on, and it doesn't seem that it could be as easily done as it was. Now, according to Mr. Paddock's brother, the shooter was the kind of guy that would not carry the luggage up himself. He would have a bellhop do it. He'd pay somebody to lug stuff up to the room. And it's amazing. If you pay somebody enough, even if they see something suspicious, they don't say anything, because you would imagine that these cases that were brought up and had to be brought up at multiple times, and for one, if the bellhops were involved and because they were paid to carry this luggage and didn't say anything, wouldn't that hold them accountable at least a little bit? Even if you're unwillingly doing something, if you're buying stolen material that you didn't know was stolen, you still get in trouble, right? Maybe a smaller infraction. We also, later in the show, we're going to have Jonathan Rios from WON 920, The Apple in New York City, going to be joining us. He's going to be talking about his station, some shows that are on his station, talking about the JOHN LEBANG Show because we're on his station. We wanted to have him on because he had us on some months back, and we wanted to give him the same opportunity he gave us, and it was really fun. We're going to do another version. As you heard in the first hour, we did a version of Celebrity, Drop It Like a Deuce. We're going to have another installment of that with Mr. Jonathan Rios, so that should be fun. This whole shooter thing, as we're now going back on topic here, I didn't know if I was going to discuss that, because normally in this second hour we try to keep it a little less formal, a little more humor based, but we were asked after the first hour to continue, if we were going to continue talking about this, because the first hour, if you missed it, was a very powerful hour. We played audio from not only what happened on location during the shooting of Mandalay Bay, at the Mandalay Bay, or it's not even, it's really not a shooting at the Mandalay Bay. We're focusing on the Mandalay Bay, but the targets were in the little festival area that was right in front of the Luxor. They were shooting from the Mandalay Bay because that had the best vantage point and probably gave them the most time. And I keep saying they, because I'm not convinced it's a lone gunman. Somebody helped him, whether it was just bellhops who took his luggage from the car all the way up to the room and then swapped rooms, or it was a deeper conspiracy, which I'm leaning towards. And after seeing the interview with the brother, I have a feeling he knows something that he's not telling us. Maybe the girlfriend knew. There's still a lot of questions. And then we heard about the Bellagio having a shooter situation, that there's a couple videos out there. Even the locals are discussing it, as Jaybird in the first hour, our affiliate out at Radio Vegas Rocks out there in Las Vegas, he even brought up the fact that there were reports even on the police scanners of something going down at the Bellagio. And with the stuff that was in the guy's car, looking like he might have been considering, at least, on either building a bomb or making a bomb. We don't know. It's all conjecture at this point. The authorities don't know. I think they know more than they're telling us, and I think they're freaked out, and the news media is helping them out by trying to keep us calm and not explaining to us that it was a much bigger event. And that's my opinion, that it was at least supposed to be a much bigger event, and for whatever reason, people backed out, people people used him as a patsy. Whatever it might have been, it's something bigger than what we're being told. Now, how big? I couldn't tell you. There's there's a little bit of suggestion here that the guy didn't like the Donald Trump supporter. Just a little bit. But we can't go there. I mean, it could be something as simple as that, where the news media has radicalized more people. Or it could be something like how ISIS is claiming this guy, Mr. Paddock, they call him Abu, that he converted over to them 6 months ago or whatever. I mean, that would make sense, I guess. You never know. ISIS likes taking credit for things. And because we're in this situation, because we're looking at a government, a police force, I mean, even Las Vegas, who's got to be on higher alert than most cities across the country. Las Vegas was unprepared for this. Las Vegas, it took them 72 minutes to stop the rampage. Although from their accounts, the rampage only went on for 9 to 11 minutes from the room. Nine to 11 minutes. And the people at the festival ground on Route 91 on the 1st, those people took the brunt of the hit. And why? I mean, here more the questions, as we brought up in the first hour. Why did they turn the lights on when the gunshots started happening? That made the people in the crowd way more visible, because these weren't little lights. These were big, bright white lights. Big lights that are shining on me right now in the studio, but tenfold because they had many more that were on. That way, anybody who was shooting at people it was all lit up for them. They were clear targets. They weren't, shrouded in darkness. The way the brother was explaining, this guy liked to spend money left and right, which is, fine when you're wealthy enough to do it. That's fine. You help out other people when you spend money, that's for sure. Keeps people working. Those bellhops that apparently his brother is suggesting Mr. Paddock would have paid to bring these cases up to the room and from room to room. He gave them jobs. He kept them busy. He probably gave them pretty good tips to keep quiet. Shh, don't tell anybody. Shh. And maybe Vegas is so corrupt that those bellhops that might have helped them, if that is the case, if it's that simple, are so scared or so used to being, it's Vegas, man. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And even though we're in Vegas, we're going to continue to act like we're not in Vegas. It doesn't happen. So as we find out more information, which is really stupid information, I guess what is being said now, being reported on CNN, is that the little piece of paper, the little note that was left behind that they thought might have been a suicide note in the beginning was now some kind of calculations to aim, apparently, at the spectators. You need calculations because I guess he didn't know the distance, or he had to get the distance, and then he was out there measuring how far it would be to shoot at people, and was doing some kind of mathematical equation to make sure he hit as many people as he could. I mean, if there was ever a mystery, we're in the middle of it. And as I heard Mr. Michael Savage say on Friday, This has been one of the hardest weeks to do talk radio, and I have to admit that it was better for myself to have my shows when I do have them, because I had about 5 days in between the actual event and when my show came on, my first hour and this hour, for me to gather as much information, for me to do as much research as possible. And that's what made that first hour so powerful. Anyways, folks, we've gone long. Please check out our sponsors and support them because they support us. More on the flip side.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. Listening there. Don't go anywhere. The JOHN LEBANG Show is going to be right back. Just ask the hillbilly.
That's right. Right after this.
What about me? Maybe next time. Check out the new book from Derek Shelmerdine,
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
It tells the story of rock and roll from its roots right up until the mid-'70s punk.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
Not just the music, but also the events that shaped the music.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
It includes the backgrounds to recording sessions, singles, album releases, births and deaths, epic concerts, and festivals.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
Shelmerdine has made a painstaking effort to document pretty much every event that would prove significant in shaping popular music.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
Purchase the book at www.rockandrollunraveled.com. Follow him at Twitter at R&R Unraveled and look him up on Facebook at Rock and Roll Unraveled.
Rock and Roll Unraveled.
By author Derek Shelmerdine.
Available now. You're listening to the JOHN LEBANG Show.
It's a hell of a good time, isn't it?
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I wanted to touch on another thing about, except it was a little more on my end, but it circles around my investigation of the events in Las Vegas and how people perceive my show, because I made a post on Facebook before the first hour where I was describing what was going to be talked about on the first hour show. I do that every week before the show is aired. I do a Facebook event, and then I explain what's going to be going on in each hour, because, you know, that way you can entice people to come listen. And it gets people interested if it's a subject people want to listen to. So that's what I did for the first hour, and I did it for this hour as well. And I had a lady from Facebook who lives in Las Vegas, probably never listened to my show before. In fact, I'm pretty sure she hasn't listened to my show. She comes on and starts giving me the runaround a little bit. Where are you getting your information for real facts? I live in Vegas. You know, all kind of cranky, and I was just like, listen here, and I'm going to paraphrase my response, but it was like, well, I've gone through 200, at least now it's probably like 300 articles by different news sources, different websites, different agencies, the FBI, the Metro Police. I've covered all that. I've also watched, I don't know, a dozen, maybe 24 videos of the actual event happening as it happened. And then I've listened to and watched analysis from another 20 or 30 people, sources we'll say, and I put together that. I also brought in a guest in the first hour who was even supposed to be at the show, decided not to go, thank goodness. And I got their perspective, and I'm doing my best to get us a former police officer right there, the Metro Police officer in Las Vegas. I'm trying to get them on the show right now as we speak. And as my listeners truly know, I spend a lot of time putting this stuff together and gathering the information for these shows. I don't just go out there and make half-hearted opinions based on no facts, no information. And that's maybe why some people aren't catching on to the show yet, because they don't understand the work I put in. Because most people out there don't put in that kind of work. It's tough enough running a show on the internet when you're doing it all yourself, because most of us out here don't have the big crews. You know, we don't have a producer. We don't have a mixer and an engineer. We don't have an intern. We're doing this all ourselves. And I give credit to every one of my fellow colleagues out there that are struggling to be this independent voice, whatever they're doing, whether it be music or talk or comedy. It's a tough business out here, and we don't get paid for it like the guys you hear on the FM and AM dial. And if we do, it's through some very small advertisers. You know, radio stations charge a lot. Us here on the internet, if we get $5 an ad, we're lucky, and it probably costs us, 20, 30 minutes to put an ad together for a customer. So we're not getting paid much an hour to do it anyway, so it's practically free. But hey, $5 is better than nothing, because if you get a lot of $5, you might be able to buy that thing you need to improve your show. But when you get people who don't understand, and I'm sure the professional shows on terrestrial radio deal with the same thing. They hear about a show, and whether it's by somebody's opinion or just by a topic they happen to read, your show was about one week, they make an opinion that that's everything your show is about. That's what you are. And the people who, because they live there, they expect you not to know anything about it. When an event like this, and in a world that we do live in, this 21st century where everything is interconnected, without actually being at the event, we all get the same information, and we just have to sift through it. And some of us sift through more than others. So a person in New York could know a heck of a lot about a subject that happened in Arizona if they were interested enough to do all the research on. And they might actually know more than the person who was in Arizona and wasn't at whatever particular event. Now, if you're there, you know. If you were inside the event happening, like these people who lived it, and I would like to find people who were at the event themselves to call the show, to send us an email at jlebang@live.com. I would like to interview you. I want to know specifically what you saw. Because if there's anything the John LeBang Show is about, it's about giving you good information and knowing what we're talking about. Sure, we do a lot of comedy and the radio dramas, and those things are great. But when we're giving out information, we're trying to be as accurate as possible. We're not trying to deceive our audience. We're not trying to shock value you like, Mr. Alex Jones, who takes a receipt that has one burger on it, a few drinks, a bagel, and some grilled onions, and turn it into a story because he doesn't have anything else to talk about. And what about these other shootings that happened at these other venues? apparent shootings. We don't want to say they actually happened because nobody's talking about it. Only people on the internet are talking about it. There's a few videos if you want to go check them out. Not a lot. At first I was trying to figure out, okay, maybe they were stray bullets from the Mandalay Bay and, bullets hit. Then I looked at the map of the area and they're on different sides of the town. They're off the same road, but they're on different sides of the town. It's blocks and blocks away. And the way the guy was firing, he was going to shoot something at the airport before he was going to shoot anything at the Bellagio. And the more I read, it looks like the exits were almost impossible to get through. And they're talking that, well, people are running to the places where they came in, and the exits were on the other side of the venue. But that's poor planning by whoever does the planning there. Because in the case of an emergency, what are people going to do? They're going to run to the place they came into. Wherever they came in, they're going to run to get out. Because that's where they know it. That's how they got in. It's logical behavior. When you're in crisis mode, you go where you know you can get the hell out. You don't go where you don't know. And that phone call on Michael Savage was just shocking to listen to it. Was there a second gunman? I was thinking about that. Because there are some videos trying to connect those dots. And although I understand what they're pointing out, I'm not behind that yet. I haven't bought into that theory. But when you think of these festivals, they're not the normal police officers that are doing their job. The people at these festivals, at least in my town, are the auxiliary, the extra guys, the guys that aren't the full-time cops that handle these. Sure, they might be trained, but as we saw with 9/11, the terrorists were trained on how to fly a plane. So it's not that out of the question for a person to be trained and then infiltrate the police department. So here we go. The talk is that maybe one of them were dressed as a cop if there was a guy running around. And I'm thinking that's very plausible because working these things, they're the auxiliary guys, which means they're not the regulars, so there's extra guys there. So sure, if you're going to do something that barbaric, I mean, they did turn on the lights to make sure everybody was, in plain view of whoever was shooting at them. If you're dressed like a cop and you're point blank range, you're going to hit a lot of people. And the radius of how people were shot should be a big interest because, and I'm not an expert at this, and we'd like to get an expert, but firing from the Mandalay Bay that far, your hit ratio, I would imagine, wouldn't be in a close proximity of people. Because if you're firing like you are, where it's a ba 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 ba, you're getting some recoil, and your aim is not on the same target per se. There's some movement there, and when you're going as far as that did, that could be 2, 3, 5, 10, maybe in 20 feet difference in angle. But if you're in close proximity and you're firing at that range, you'd hit a whole bunch of people in a small area. And that's something that I'd like to know. And I don't think we're going to find that one out. And that is some of the most crucial evidence to the case. at least to find out if it was just this guy. But since that's the motive, that's the narrative that the authorities are running with and the media is echoing, then I think that's not going to be looked at. Anyways, folks, we're long again. We got to take a quick break. On the other side of this, we got our good friend Jonathan Rios calling in. Be right back.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. Listening there. Don't go anywhere. The John LeBang Show is going to be right back. Just ask the hillbilly.
That's right. Right after this.
What about me? Maybe next time. You know, if you're getting married soon and you need good entertainment, you need to contact John LeBang. He's got 30 years of experience of wedding entertainment under his belt, and there is no one better and no one cheaper. He's running a special to the end of the year, $500 for your wedding if you book now. Contact John LeBang by email at jlebang@live.com or go to his website. That's www.jlebang.com.
CRRM, CarePoint Billing Services. Their billers and managers are all dedicated to working for you to increase your profits. For more information, call CRRM at 248-579-3805. CRRM, CarePoint Billing Services.
Hey, man, it's at the bottom of the hour, man. Do you know where your kids are, man?
Great guest coming up next, owner of WON 920, the Apple in New York, Jonathan Rios, stopping in to say hi. Welcome to the show, Jonathan.
John, how's everything? Thanks for having me.
Oh, I love having you on, man. What's happening out there in New York right now?
Well, the Yankees and everything else. It seems to be the big thing going on here in New York City. Everybody's got Yankee fever. You know, fall is coming, and the fall time in New York is always special, especially when you see the colors of the trees changing, but mostly when the Yankees are in the playoffs. So that's the big thing going on in New York. All in all, I'm doing pretty well.
Great. Now, tell everybody, it's been about a year now that I've been on the station.
Yeah.
And why don't you tell everybody what gave you the idea to start the station, and what was your thoughts behind putting it all together?
It stems back to it's been quite a while. I had an online radio station I started back in 2014, and it didn't work out, and I said, I don't have my head in all this, and it's not going to work. But it wasn't until 2015, around the fall time, when I decided, let me try this again, but let me do this my own way and format it my own way. And it took about 3 months to put together 920 WON, and we went on the air on November 8th of 2015. And the goal was just to be a 5-night-a-week station giving old-time radio shows. But then a lot of people listened to the station. They and a lot of the radio hosts like yourself, they emailed me. They said they would like to be part of it, and I heard their demos, and it was a good fit, and I liked it. It was entertainment, just kept on growing and growing and growing, and here we are, almost about to hit 2 years, and it's right now one of the most listened to stations on the Castor FM dial, and it's just amazing how much attention the station has gotten so far in the almost 2 years we've been on the air.
And you do have a great variety of shows. Why don't you explain to the audience what kind of shows you carry on your station?
Well, our bread and butter is old-time radio and oldies. We're a nostalgia station. We broadcast shows like The Jack Benny Show. We broadcast shows like Dragnet, R-Mix Brooks, Superman, which is our biggest hit on the station, and on and on and on. On weekends, we go all out. We have comedy shows. We have variety shows like yourselves and Paul Farah. We have the top syndicated internet radio shows like the Vinny and the Alien and the Mad Talk Show, including my own One Nostalgic Weekend. And of course we have sports, especially during the fall when we cover the Buffalo Bills Football Club. We're the only New York City station that covers the team. So we have a variety of everything. If you turn the 920 WON the Apple, you not only get the best of old time radio and oldies, you get the best of all kinds of genres: rock, oldies, comedy, music. You get everything on 920 WON.
And you were talking about your show. Why don't you give a little in-depth into what you do on your show?
Yeah, it's an old-time radio show called One Nostalgic Weekend. It was formerly called One Saturday Morning. It's a 2-hour old-time radio show that focuses on comic book characters like superheroes or comic book characters that are no longer in newspaper strips. For example, Little Orphan Annie, which we're planning to bring back in 2018. She's going to be part of One Nostalgic Weekend. Right now, we broadcast Superman, the Lone Ranger. Starting this weekend, we broadcast Batman for the first time. Yes, Batman did have an old-time radio show. And also the Blue Beetle. We have a lot of action-packed sci-fi superhero comic book strict shows coming up in 2018. But it is amazing how this show has grown and stuff, because in the beginning, when I started this in February of 2016, it's amazing how much it grew. You know, it was a 4-hour show, and then months later became a 2-hour show, and that's when stations got interested. And to this day now, we have about 15 affiliates who carry One Nostalgic Weekend, which I'm very happy and humbled, and I really appreciate the stations who do like it and are carrying it. It's amazing. It really is amazing that there's still a lot of people in my generation, your generation, even further from that love old time radio, and that's tremendous. It's music to my ears.
Yep, and on occasion I give a style of old time radio when I do my little specials and stuff.
Yeah, you do, and you do a great job with it. And I know we have that scheduled for this Sunday morning at 5 a.m. Yeah, I think, and that's what's also great about your show, because you incorporate a lot of radio drama into it, and that's why your show has been such a great fit for our station. Radio drama and old time radio, it's a genre which sadly is not touched upon a lot. You rarely hear these big AM and FM stations play it. Some that do, they get a lot of ratings out of it. They get a lot of feedback out of it, and it's an unusual genre. But it's a genre which now that we're in the 21st century, which is mostly heard now on internet radio, which I think is a perfect combination: internet radio and old time radio.
And if people don't understand what you're talking about, but that's like movies without video. That's what You're talking about.
And it's like television as well, because most of these shows, before there was television, everything was radio. I mean, you had all your shows on radio. If you wanted to listen to comedy shows, you'd have to turn on the radio. You want to listen to like an hour version of a movie, you turn it on radio. You got your news, you turn it on radio.
And these are commercial free.
Commercial free, absolutely. We do not air we always edit the ones that have cigarette advertisements. Even though it's only on internet radio, I'm not a fan of having the cigarette advertisements aired on the show on the station. And also, when you look back at that time and you look at old time radio, everybody says this: if it wasn't for radio back in the 40s, who knows what World War II would have been like? I mean, everybody talks about that time, that radio was such a pivotal part of the U.S. winning the war in World War II. So that had a significant effect back in that time. But old time radio, it's just something about it that's crisp, and it still rises up to the occasion even in today's generation. It's just a shame that the big AM and FM stations don't broadcast it enough.
Yeah, but it gives you the opportunity to get that niche that nobody else has.
Exactly, absolutely. And I mean, like I said, the internet radio is a perfect forum for this type of genre. But it would be nice, and then again, like I said, there's a couple of stations One Nostalgic Weekend is broadcasted in Pittsburgh, KQV. They were the first big market that picked up my show. They love old time radio. They do old time radio at night, and then they do news mostly in the day. But they still care about the pastor radio. But again, like you said, internet radio has a niche. They're ahead of its time. We see this with Sirius XM. They got their own old time radio channel as well. So, old time radio, it's a great genre, and I love the fact people like you bring it back your own style, your own way, with radio drama and stuff. It's so entertaining to listen to, and I certainly hope there's others that come along the way in this business that do the same thing, because radio drama, old time radio, is just a great genre to cover and to listen to, period.
I really appreciate what you're saying, Jonathan. I've been trying to find the actual title for the genre I'm doing, because I don't know what it, radio drama, radio opera. I can't figure out what exactly because it's different, because I don't, even though I do a lot of the same stuff, my stuff's more modern and it's a little edgier than most of that old radio stuff.
But it's still entertaining. It's radio drama and stuff. Listen, I've heard a lot of shows that broadcast today that have shows that take place in around this time. You look at a perfect example, the Twilight Zone radio drama. Those shows are written for this time. Now, a lot of them they put from the Rod Serling scripts from the 60s and stuff, but then there's new ones written for this generation to take place at this time. So all in all, we're seeing it come back slowly but surely, taking place in the modern time and even in the future. But when it comes to your stuff, I mean, it's still radio drama, and it's funny, it's edgy, and it's different, and that's what makes it so entertaining. I think the good thing about radio drama, and the good thing of it about it in the 21st century, is that now is no holds barred, and especially with internet radio in effect. I mean, you could say anything you want on internet radio if you're doing a radio drama. You could curse, you could swear, you could do anything now, and we're seeing more of that happen on internet radio, especially when it comes to radio dramas. And trust me, I've heard a lot of them, and they're entertaining, they're edgy to listen to. But I think that's just the way the future is. That's the way internet radio is, and it's a good forum for it.
Well, the best thing about internet radio that a lot of people don't understand is it's tied in with podcasting, and you can get this stuff a lot of times on demand, which you couldn't get the old time shows on demand, but now you can through your station. But because I think you post every show every week after it's been played, right? You still do that.
Yeah, we every syndicate, including yours, but yeah, the old time radio shows. We post them up on Mixcloud, and the thing, what makes our station so different is because when we first started, we broadcasted the show separately. It would be all the Jack Benny program, and it would be Dragnet coming up here and this and that. But we have such a talented group of people who have their own syndicated radio shows that broadcast old time radio shows, and including mine, but excluding me. You got Ed Clark, who broadcasts 7 days a week on my station, old time radio. 7 nights a week, and he's tremendous. You got the Gassman brothers, you got Jerry Hendergast, you have Rick Haggerty, who officially debuts Thursday night on my station called Radio Roots. You got Dwayne Killstrip, you got Craig Orendorf, you got Dennis Daly. I could go on and on and on. These guys are so talented. They do their research, which makes their show so good to listen to. Because you're not just hearing about the show. You're hearing about the history of the show, the history during that time, what happened during that day, the actors and the actresses, their careers, their lives. And these guys who put the work in, these are, like I said, the 7-day-a-week show. I credit Ed. He's such a hard worker with that. And I also credit all these people who do the weekly shows. They do so much research before they put these shows together, and I credit them. And that, in my view, they're the best in this business. And because of them, 920 WN wouldn't be where it is today without them. And they just do such a good job, and it makes these old time radio shows more enjoyable, especially when you hear the background of what happened during that time.
Well, Jonathan, we got a couple things we do with guests that come on, and as we're running up against our time, before we do that,
Yeah.
I'd like you to tell people how they can find your station and where they can get all your social media.
Well, folks can listen to 920 WON. We're powered by Caster FM. Log on to www.920won.caster.fm. You can find our station on Facebook. Type in facebook.com/WON920. When I'm not planning to go on Twitter or Instagram anytime soon, but we may be looking at that in 2018. But they can find us on facebook.com/WON920. You want to hear us again online live? www.920won.caster.fm.
All right. You should get on Twitter. It's really helped out the show on my end.
Really?
Yeah, I'm picking up. You just tweet a couple times a day. You put up a video or something, and that really helps you out. So, something to think about. Yeah. Okay, well, now we got Celebrity Drop It Like a Deuce with Jonathan Rios. If you want to win a prize, drop it like a deuce. Are you sure this is a good idea? If you want to have a good time, drop it like a deuce.
I have a bad feeling about this.
No need to sterilize. Drop it like a deuce. Oh no. Drop it like a deuce. Drop it like a deuce. Drop it like a deuce. Superman versus the Hulk.
Oh, wow. Which one I would pick to win?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which one do you like? Which one's your favorite?
Oh boy, you see, when I look at the Hulk, he's green. He has a lot of muscle and stuff, but I gotta pick Superman. Oh my God. No, I mean, there's two things that Superman can do. He could pick Hulk his ass up and fly him all the way to the next town and throw him into the Atlantic Ocean. And what can Hulk do? I mean, Superman, listen, he has the power. He's more powerful in my view than the Hulk. I mean, the Hulk, what does he do? He gets mad, he turns green, he turns muscles, all this kind of stuff. When Superman puts him in his place, boom, he's back to a wimp. So I picked Superman.
All right. How about Bob Marley or Jimi Hendrix?
Oh boy, that's a tough one. Ooh, I have to pick Jimi Hendrix. The reason for that is because he had. The way he played music, I mean, he was a rebel, no question about it. Bob Marley, again, a rebel as well. But I think Jimi Hendrix music, I mean, it stands out more. It has that sound which I think a lot of people can relate to. It's also a theme of a famous wrestler who no longer is part of WWE. I think many people know who I'm talking about. So I picked Jimi Hendrix. Taco
salad or taco pizza?
I say neither. I don't eat tacos, so I can't eat that stuff. Oh my!
I feel sorry for your girlfriend.
Well, yeah.
Abraham Lincoln or George Washington?
Abraham Lincoln.
All right, 5 questions for you. Okay. Favorite movie?
Oh boy, man, you put me on the spot there. There's so many. North by Northwest by Alfred Hitchcock.
Food you hate?
Broccoli.
Was 9/11 an inside job?
No.
Have you ever snuck into a movie theater?
No.
First concert?
Oh boy. It actually took place last year. It was over at BB King's. My friend Ian took me there. Man, but the guy's name escapes me though right now. Is Deo, I believe. No, I'm not sure. I don't remember the last name. But my first concert was last year. It was at BB King's.
Okay, Jonathan, thank you so much for being on the show this week.
Hey, listen, a pleasure, my friend. Keep up the good job. You're doing great for the Apple, my friend.
We'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen.
Where do you think you're going?
The John LeBang Show will be right back.
So grab a beer and a smoke and sit your butt back down. Stay right here.
Powerful, epic music by Toothbox Row. Life-changing lyrics come in every style, empowering humanity to finally unlock the chains of bondage. Experience the edgy side of positive music and rock your world today. From Primal to Divine, available now at sassyalternativemusic.com.
If you want to contact the John LeBang Show, feel free to send an email to jlebang@live.com. And if you're on Twitter, look them up at John LeBang. And don't forget to go to his Facebook page at The John LeBang Show. Banger. Now here's John.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, as we're moving on this final segment here on the John LeBang Show. For this week, I want to thank all the guests that we've had. Definitely am not going to be able to get a hold of the law enforcement officer I was hoping to. Maybe we'll have him on a future show. So I want to cover just a few more things with this Vegas situation, and then we're going to put it to bed as we put the show to bed for this week. Some of the things that have been coming out here lately is that nobody saw this coming from this guy because he was a regular, everyday, average guy who would take care of his family, who treated people well, who spent money. I mean, he did not fit the profile of a psychopath, apparently. Then we get the talk about that he had a couple prostitutes, or at least one prostitute that they found who had been with this guy, apparently. They're talking about how he enjoyed like rape fantasies and weird things like that. This part of the story, that this 27-year-old hooker, who of course is not being named. I love sources that are not being named. It's said the guy was paranoid, observant, and he ranted all the time about things like, you know, conspiracies like 9/11 being an inside job and those sort of things. So they found a prostitute to come out and just, you know, say, hey man, this guy was a little bit of a whack job. He was an alternative media kind of guy, apparently. Another alternative media kind of guy, because he got into all those conspiracy theories, like 9/11 being an inside job and all. So we have another instance where the media is now trying to link him up to anybody else who doesn't think the story of 9/11 was kosher. You know, anybody who might look into the conspiracy realm, especially on this story, who might dabble in the conspiracy world, they're going to relate him to this guy. This guy's a nut job. Nobody saw the nut job coming. Nobody even realized that he was a nut job. He was a really nice dude. They had a guy on Michael Savage that was a ex-neighbor of this guy, and he's like, that's not the guy I knew. So even Steve Wynn, one of the mega casino owners down there in Las Vegas, said his staff dealt with him. He's had talks with his staff. Everybody thought he was a regular guy. He was a good tipper and everything. Never owed money, gambled modestly. So here we have a guy who doesn't fit the story, and they continue to push it as it is the story. He had no help, no additional shooters, nobody to supply it. He did it all himself. Even though the guy was a very nice guy and he was gracious to everybody and took care of the people he cared about, on this night he decided to do something so off his normal behavior, so diametrically opposed to what he normally was. He just snapped, went off. There's talks that he might have been on some prescription medicine, and now we have the hooker situation. I guess he liked hookers, and he would talk about random stuff with hookers, like conspiracy theories with them. And even though Steve Wynn and everybody who had dealt with him thought he was a great guy, except for the hooker thought he was weird because apparently he liked rape sex or something like that. Now, who's the weird one? The one that likes rape sex, or the one who takes money so they can be rape sexed? I'm just, gets, how credible is this prostitute, this 27-year-old prostitute? We hear his brother, and he's trying to defend his brother, and he's trying to distance the family a little bit, even though he's basically saying his brother was a great guy and you would never seen this coming. So we have a situation of a person who is totally random, never saw it coming, we didn't know it was going to happen, showed no signs of it, all of a sudden snapping, losing his mind, and going crazy? We're supposed to believe that. We're supposed to believe he didn't have help. He had some kind of secret life. Who doesn't have a secret life? Who doesn't do things that they don't want the whole world knowing what you're doing? I mean, that's called privacy, not secrecy. And we're left with so many questions. We don't understand why this would have happened. If there was people behind him, if there wasn't, why would he pull this off? There's talks by eyewitnesses at the scene that they thought there was a shooter on the ground and it was getting closer. There are videos of people at the Bellagio after some kind of gun incident or apparent gun incident. We can't prove it. They turn on the lights so that everybody's exposed to the shooter or shooters. It takes forever to get into that room to find out if he's there doing anything. After his 9 to 11 minute rampage from the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay, right in front of the Luxor, at a festival, on October 1st, 2017. These are the things that we're having to understand in this day and age. Is this a terrorist attack? Is this a lone gunman? We don't know. The government's telling us one thing, but the video footage is showing us something different. When you look, and this is a big thing that I've glossed over, and I didn't even mean to gloss over, when you're looking at these videos from the spectators who were filming it while they were being shot, and every angle that was facing the Mandalay Bay, you did not see any flashes coming from the windows. There were no flash of lights where the gun would be firing. And I mean, when you go and look at other videos where what they're saying are similar weapons firing, there are flash. Even in the day you can see a flash. So how come you can't see a flash in the middle of the night? All questions that leave us questioning even more. No answers what to speak of outside of little dribbles in from the government. They seem to be keeping things quiet. We don't know what actually happened. We're being fed a story that is hard to believe. And I don't think this is the last we're going to have these incidents as well. And by the body count of the people who are injured, let alone the 58 people, 5-8. Interestingly enough, turns out to be 13, if you believe in numerology. Those many people, the 527, let's just hope 527 doesn't become a significant number in the future. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen, for yet another week of Sonic Vibrations, known as The John LeBang Show. I'd like to thank all my great guests who joined me this week, as well as all of my affiliate stations. Don't forget to go to my website, that's www.jlebang.com. Thank you all for listening and supporting the show. And until the vibrations of my vocal cords reach your ears again, my friends. This is John LeBang signing off from the Banger Studios. Good night.
Tune in again next week. Same time, same space, same station.
Resistance is futile.